Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 1, Episode 58. Geihai's crimson eyes stared wildly at the figure in front of him. The latter's eyes remained calm as usual. The situation before them was like a seemingly silent and serene lake. Yet a frightening whirlpool that could envelop people was hidden underneath it. You think that we're still in the spiritual road? Geihai glared at Mu Chen and ground his teeth. You think in your current state that you are still qualified to say that to me? Based on what? By the fact that you're at the spiritual rotation stage late phase? Mu Chen smiled. If you want to wipe away the fear and trauma within your heart, then come and get me. But you should know my personality. Thus, if you plan on doing it, you should be prepared to pay a price. This place clearly isn't as cruel as the environment of Spiritual Road, but if I actually cared about such rules, I wouldn't have done those things back in the Spiritual Road. Geihai's eyes narrowed. From Mu Chen's smile, he could see the terrifying figure from the Spiritual Road again. Fear spread out from the depths of his heart. You, at your current state, aren't qualified to say such words to me, Geihai replied darkly. He took a deep breath and suppressed the fear within his heart. He knew that if he did not defeat Mu Chen, there would be an obstacle in his cultivation due to the existence of the trauma. The heavens had given him a chance to wipe away this fear, so he must seize this opportunity. This time, you will be the one that will pay the price. A shout rang out from Geihai's throat. In the next instant, his eyes revealed a hint of fierceness and brutality. Then a powerful spiritual energy emitted out unreservedly from his body. Boom! He pushed off from the ground and flew over like an arrow. He immediately appeared in front of Mu Chen, and his hands clenched on the dark red long sword. With a swishing sound, a sharp sword beam slashed down furiously at Mu Chen's throat. Geihai revealed his experience and his ferocity within that offensive. The imposing manner from the attack was something that far surpassed any ordinary students. A person who came out of the spiritual road had to be at least this capable. Mu Chen's eyes flashed as he saw the sword beam. He retreated back slightly and, with the sounds of winds breaking, the sharp sword beam flew past the place where his throat was earlier. Right now, I'll let you know the gap between a spirit stage and a spiritual rotation stage late phase, Geihai yelled. A powerful spiritual energy pressure enveloped Mu Chen, and an overwhelming sword beam slashed towards his vital areas like a storm. Swish! Numerous gouges appeared on the ground due to the sword attacks. Even countless trees were cleaved apart by the sword. Their bare stumps were as smooth as a mirror. Everybody in the Ye clan's campground held their breath. They knew how powerful Geihai was. A spirit stage powerhouse was someone far beyond any of them. This attack was enough to instantly obliterate a spiritual rotation-y stage late phase. They did not know whether or not Mu Chen could endure it. Their gazes were filled with worry as they watched Mu Chen's figure. The latter remained motionless against the sharp sword that rushed over. Mu Chen's black eyes reflected the overwhelming sword slash, as well as Geihai's hideous appearance. In that moment, the great pagoda art began to circulate within his body. A dark black spiritual energy flowed through his meridians, and the mysterious lights within his body lit up once again. With his strength slowly increasing, it was apparent that he was gradually becoming able to activate the mysterious spiritual pulse that his mother had sealed. Although he was not able to activate its power completely, it was sufficient enough to deal with the opponent in front of him. The lights flashed and a mysterious tower vaguely appeared within Mu Chen's body. The flowing spiritual energy instantly surged out. Within Mu Chen's eyes, dark lights flashed. Furthermore, a tower of black light emerged within the depths of his eyes. He clapped his hands together, and the black light started to condense on the surface of his body. In the end, a blurry black light tower appeared. Clang, clang, clang! Geihai's sharp sword landed on the blurry black tower, and a clanging sound resounded. Sparks flew everywhere, yet the black light tower was completely unmoved. What the hell is that? Geihai stared at the black light tower that shrouded Mu Chen. His expression changed and he gritted his teeth. He could not believe that with his spirit stage strength, he would fail to oppress Mu Chen, who was only at the spiritual rotation stage late phase. Bloodshed Carnage Sword! Geihai took a step forward, and the sword's imposing manner changed. A bloody aura appeared on its surface. At the same time, the dark red long sword turned crimson and slashed down, creating a red arc. Facing Geihai's fierce offensive, Mu Chen did not show any signs of retreating. He too had his own pride. If he was to retreat in front of an enemy that wasn't worth his attention before, it would be belittle him. Mu Chen's hands clenched into fists. Under the protection of the black light tower, his body had turned into a fierce weapon. Spiritual energy and winds surged out from his fists and directly collided against Geihai's crimson longsword. Clang! The powerful impact emitted out, and the ground underneath them collapsed. Kill! Geihai shouted out furiously. As he pushed the spiritual energy within his body to the limits, the long sword within his hand let loose a powerful sword slash. However, he discovered that it was impossible to truly suppress Mu Chen. Bastard! He's only at the spiritual rotation stage late phase. How is it possible that he could fight me head-on? Geihai shouted out in his heart. As someone who was only spiritual rotation in stage late phase, Mu Chen had far exceeded Geihai's expectations regarding the former's true combat ability. The people from the Ye clan were completely shocked by the two figures. This sort of spiritual energy collision was not something that a spiritual rotation stage could release. Sister, is brother Mu Chen going to be okay? Sunner stared at the battle worriedly as she pulled Ye Qingling's hands. Ye Qingling held onto Sunner's petite hands and shook her head slightly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. Although Mu Chen was only at the spiritual rotation stage late phase, his true combat ability was equal to a spirit stage. He is truly powerful. Ye Qingling let out a praise. The spiritual road's blood calamity definitely deserved his reputation. Even though he was kicked out of the spiritual road and had his cultivation level slowed, how was it possible that such a monstrous person would have let himself fall behind others? This sort of person would probably press forward slowly and surely, while at the same time becoming even stronger when they suffer an enormous blow. Boss actually can't obtain the upper hand. Damn it, how is it possible that he is this powerful? A few members of the GE clan were secretly shocked. They thought that with Geihai's spirit stage strength, he would be able to completely suppress Mu Chen, who was only at the spiritual rotation stage late phase. Ge Qing's expression changed completely. Since Mu Chen was able to defeat 3 spiritual rotation stage late phase by himself, he was naturally stronger than an ordinary spiritual rotation stage late phase. However, he never expected that Mu Chen was someone that even Geihai would find it difficult to defeat. Clang, clang! The two figures collided fiercely against each other. The spiritual energy impact sent the gravel on the ground flying, and dirt blasted out along with the impact. And at the source of the impact, Geihai's face was extremely grim. His hands clenched onto the sword handle and revealed a posture that looked as though he could slash down a mountain. This powerful attack that could cut apart his spiritual rotation stage late phase was completely blocked by Mu Chen's bare fists. The latter's fists emitted a black spiritual energy fluctuation, and an overbearing presence started to emerge. It was something that even Geihai's longsword failed to cut apart. You who obtained the spiritual energy empowerment are only this powerful? It seems that the empowerment wasn't as impressive as I thought. Mu Chen smiled faintly. With his current strength, he would be able to fight against a spirit stage initial phase powerhouse once he activated the mysterious spiritual pulse within his body. Geihai, who thought that he could free himself from the trauma, had truly underestimated him. I will let you know soon. Back then, I was able to defeat you with ease. Even now, I can do it just as easily. Mu Chen's eyes turned cold at this moment. His originally peaceful expression instantly became as dangerous as any blade. As he looked into Mu Chen's eyes, Geihai's heart trembled. Swish! Mu Chen took a step forward, and the spiritual energy within his body surged out. Then he clenched his fists and, without hesitation, fired off a punch. This plain and ordinary fist carried no mysteries as it was shot forth. However, as the fist was about to land, it let out powerful winds and a black light radiated from its center. It was there that 3 black light seals emerged. These 3 black light seals were only a few meters tall, but they let out an extremely domineering fluctuation. Boom! Mu Chen's face remained calm as he let the punch fly out towards Geihai. With a trail of black light and the sounds of winds breaking, the 3 black light seals roared and bombarded against Geihai ruthlessly. The places that the winds rushed through seemed to have exploded. It was as if the air itself was slightly distorted. Geihai also noticed how powerful Mu Chen's offensive was. His eyes immediately became serious. The long sword within his hand instantly let out a sword beam that was dozens of meters long. Light flashed through Ge-Hai's eyes. "Spirit Destruction Blood Strike!" he immediately cried out. The sword beam instantly turned crimson like it was made of fresh blood. In the next instant, the blood-red sword beam pierced through the air and collided against the 3 black light seals. Boom! Once the attacks made contact, the 3 black light seals erupted at the same time. 3 overbearing energies stacked against each other and bombarded the crimson sword beam. Dong! The crimson sword beam trembled intensely and then actually shattered on impact. When the crimson sword beam were broken to pieces, Ge-Hai's eyes were filled with terror. He wasn't able to obtain the upper hand even with his strongest attack. The dark red long sword flew away from Ge-Hai's hands. His body shot backwards as if he suffered a heavy blow and landed heavily against a sturdy tree. His throat tasted something sweet and he immediately spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. "How is this possible? Why did I lose to him again?" Ge-Hai screamed within his heart. He immediately stood up and prepared to attack again. He wanted to use the dense spiritual energy of a spirit stage to wear down Mu Chen. However, just as he stood up, his body instantly froze. This was because he felt an extremely violent spiritual energy fluctuation surging in front of him. A commotion suddenly rang out in the surroundings as well. Ge-Hai slowly lifted his head. He noticed that Mu Chen was staring at him emotionlessly as his hands were at his side. However, lightning flashed above his head as it formed into a massive lightning spiritual array. The violent fluctuations that were emitted from the spiritual array made Ge-Hai's eyes narrow. Mu Chen was actually a spiritual array master. Ge-Hai's body stiffened and a hint of horror emerged within his heart. "I've said it before, I have too many opponents. But if you want to step on me, you're not qualified to do so." Mu Chen stared indifferently at Ge-Hai, whose eyes were completely filled with horror. He flicked his finger, and the lightning spiritual array issued out a roar. A dazzling lightning emerged from the array and charged out like a furious dragon. The lightning tore through the air, and a blinding light shone. Ge-Hai and the other Ge clan's members' faces immediately paled. At this moment, Ge-Hai finally understood how large the gap between him and Mu Chen was. After all, there was always someone that would be feared and be looked up to by someone like him. The lightning pierced through the forest like an angry dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. A violent spiritual energy fluctuation surged out and rampaged through the air. Swish! In a blink of an eye, the lightning had charged over to Ge-Hai. At this moment, the latter's eyes were filled with horror. When Mu Chen attacked, he did not show the slightest mercy at all. He was still as ferocious as before. At a time like this, Ge-Hai could only desperately push the spiritual energy within his body to the limits. Spiritual energy gushed out and protected his body as a sturdy spiritual energy armor. Boom! The violent lightning blinded everyone as it landed fiercely on Ge-Hai's body. The earth instantly shattered open due to the lightning shock. Swish! In this instant, Ge-Hai's body flew backwards like a bullet. The trees that were in the way were all smashed apart by his body. He then sprayed out mouthfuls of blood. After smashing apart dozens of giant trees, Ge-Hai's body finally lay on the ground awkwardly. His body was completely covered with blood and was in a helpless position. The fierceness and brutality that he showed earlier had completely vanished. At this moment, the members from the Yi clan were all completely silent. Even the people who were acting arrogant earlier had shut their mouths while cold sweat dripped down their bodies. Ge was even trembling as he looked at the scene. In his eyes, Ge-Hai had always been synonymous with the word powerful. Even after they entered the Northern Heavens world, there were only a few people that could compete with him. However, Ge-Hai, who had always been undefeated within his heart, had lost to Mu Chen. Moreover, the latter's strength was only at the spiritual rotation and stage late phase. How could he be this strong? Ge-Ching's body trembled slightly. He stared at Mu Chen and fear surged out from his eyes. Only now he regretted provoking the seemingly gentle, yet demonic boy. In the Ye clan's campground, it was also completely silent. Wang Xing and the others secretly swallowed. They couldn't imagine that the boy who was sitting together with them earlier, the boy who felt quite kind-hearted and gave off a comfortable feeling, was actually this terrifying. Ge-Hai was a spirit stage initial phase powerhouse, an existence that was as powerful as Ye Qingling. Yet he was defeated by Mu Chen. Mu Chen stared indifferently at the helpless figure on the ground. He slowly walked past Ge Qing and headed straight towards Ge-Hai. When the members of Gay clan noticed this, they did not dare to stop Mu Chen's advance. Mu Chen stood in front of Gay Hai and clenched his hands. The dark red long sword nearby was sucked into his arm, and the razor-sharp blade was directly pointed at Gay Hai's throat. He said quietly, "I've said it before. If you dare to cause trouble for me, you should be prepared to pay a price." Gay Hai trembled. His face was pale as he stared at Mu Chen, who was looking at him condescendingly with emotionless eyes. He replied in a quivering voice, "This isn't the spiritual road. If you recklessly kill others, the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy will definitely disqualify you." "Are you threatening me with this?" Mu Chen smiled slightly. He extended his hand forward and the razor-sharp blade scratched Gay Hai's throat skin. Traces of blood slowly oozed out. The cold chill that appeared on Gay Hai's throat made his body freeze. He no longer dared to say another word. This is because he understood that if he angered the boy in front of him, the latter might actually kill him. He knew clearly how ruthless Mu Chen was. The surrounding Gay clan members shivered as they watched this scene. The piercing chill that emitted from Mu Chen's body had shocked them to the extent that they did not dare to make the slightest movement. "If you want to live, then hand over something that will save your life," Mu Chen then said faintly. "Although it is a bit troubling to murder others here, you will probably be eliminated if I wipe away the symbol on your forehead. Don't even think about entering the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy." Gay Hai's face finally changed. He had spent great effort in order to enter the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy. If he were to be eliminated here, it was truly worse than death. "I'll hand over all the spiritual aura within my symbol to you." Gay Hai gritted his teeth and replied. His symbol had already reached rank 5. It was evident that he had robbed numerous students during this period of time. If he were to hand it over to Mu Chen, his efforts during this period of time would all be in vain. However, compared to having his symbol erased, it was a much better choice. Mu Chen smiled. The sword that was posted near Gay Hai's neck retreated slightly. Gay Hai concentrated, and the golden symbol on his forehead instantly turned dim. A golden light shot out and entered the symbol on Mu Chen's forehead. Buzz! With the empowerment of the special spiritual aura, the symbol on Mu Chen's head instantly turned golden. It was obvious that his symbol had also reached rank 5 after absorbing the spiritual aura from Gay Hai's symbol. "Now can you let me go?" Gay Hai stared at the golden symbol on Mu Chen's forehead and gnashed his teeth. Hearing this, Mu Chen smiled. He shook his head and said, "This is not enough." "You!" Gay Hai was furious. The cold blade touched his skin again. Gay Hai did not dare to struggle and shouted out angrily, "What do you want?" However, Mu Chen only stared at him calmly. The meaning was obvious. With just the spiritual aura from Gay Hai's symbol, it wasn't enough to appease the unhappiness within his heart. The cold chill at his neck made Gay Hai gradually calm down. He pondered for a moment before he finally spoke. "I'll tell you something. You'll let me go." "That depends on the value of your information," Mu Chen replied lightly. "We discovered a small valley with numerous worldly treasures there. Among those treasures, we discovered one that looked like a yin-yang spirit Zoysia." Gay Hai gnashed his teeth as he replied, "Yin-yang spirit Zoysia?" Mu Chen's eyes narrowed. A hint of interest finally emerged in his eyes. It was an extremely rare worldly treasure. Not only was it extremely beneficial to spirit stage powerhouses, it is said that it was able to allow people who were at the spiritual rotation stage late phase to take the most important step forward and advance into the spirit stage. Right now, Mu Chen was only a step away from spirit stage. Although he was confident that he could advance within a month, the time it would take was a bit too long for him. He had many enemies from the spiritual road. Gay Hai was only an ordinary fellow among them. There were many people who were much more powerful than him. Mu Chen was certain he would definitely meet many familiar faces within the Northern Heavens world. Thus, he must quickly advance to the spirit stage. Only then he would possess enough strength to deal with his past enemies. Therefore, the yin-yang spirit Zoysia was extremely tempting to him. However, he did not believe Gay Hai that easily. He immediately smiled and said, "If it's such a precious worldly treasure, why didn't you try to get it? Why did you leave it there till now?" "There are 3 high-ranked spiritual beasts guarding it. Their strength is in no way inferior to me. It's impossible for me to obtain it," Gay Hai said unwillingly. He spent a great price in order to discover that place. Yet he was stopped by the 3 high-ranked spiritual beasts within the valley. "Location?" Mu Chen's eyes narrowed as he inquired. Gay Hai quickly reported the location to Mu Chen. As he listened, he pondered for a moment. Then he gestured to Ye Qingling. Seeing this, the latter walked over doubtfully. Mu Chen told Ye Qingling what Geihai had said earlier, including the location of the yin-yang spirit Soixia. Is there credibility regarding this location? Mu Chen asked. Ye Qingling knew much more than him. It was a good idea to ask for her advice. Northwest. Hearing that direction, Ye Qingling thought for a moment. Soon she nodded and replied, That direction is indeed quite hidden. Moreover, the Ge clan had indeed been hovering around that area. However, whether or not they were doing it for the yin-yang spirit Zoysia, I can't be certain. Mu Chen nodded slightly. He glanced at Geihai again. Although he did not know what idea this guy was planning, this information truly was trustworthy. Mu Chen slowly retracted the blade away and tossed the dark red longsword to Geihai. He smiled. This time, I'll let you go. However, if I discover that you've lied to me, believe me, you won't be able to get away. Geihai trembled as he saw Mu Chen's smile. He did not dare to say anything and climbed awkwardly to his feet. Then he hurriedly waved his hand and brought the Ge clan members away. Are you going to that place? Ye Qingling stared at the retreating figures before turning to face Mu Chen. She frowned and said, I've always felt that Geihai didn't have good intentions when he told you that location. It doesn't matter if he has good intentions or not. It's fine as long as the information is correct. Mu Chen replied with a smile. How about it? Are you interested in coming together with me? It seems that there are a few worldly treasures there. It would be beneficial to you and your Ye clan. A spiritual road big shot like you would actually need my help? Ye Qingling smiled and replied, Big shot? Mu Chen smiled bitterly. It's not like you don't know about that place. It's extremely dangerous. If I don't kill them, they will kill me. Ye Qingling sighed and tilted her head. She stared curiously at Mu Chen and asked, If you want my help, that's fine. However, you have to answer one of my questions. What is it? What relationship do you have with the King Luo Li? Ye Qingling asked with great interest. King Luo? Is this the title that she received after her assessment as a king class? Mu Chen could not help but laugh when he heard this title. He could imagine her frowning in frustration when she obtained the title. She is my comrade. We were always in a team. Mu Chen smiled. Are you only just comrades? Ye Qingling smirked as she looked at Mu Chen. Do you know what she did after you left the spiritual road? What? Mu Chen's smile vanished and he frowned. In the final stop of the spiritual road, when the kings were fighting for the crown, she attacked King Xuan, Ji Xuan. Ye Qingling's beautiful eyes were suddenly filled with passion. She stared eagerly at Mu Chen and stressed each syllable as she talked. The battle between two kings. At the price of being gravely injured, King Luo pushed back King Xuan and caused him to lose the opportunity to seize the crown. At that time, she told King Xuan that she would not take his life. There will be one day when you, Mu Chen, would personally take his life. Mu Chen fell silent. He raised his head and sighed. A hint of killing intent slowly surged within his eyes. Ji Xuan, you dare hurt her. Then I'll be taking your life. The battle that we did not finish in the spiritual road, let us end it during our stay in the 5 great academies. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.